another episode of Scott Fox After 9. How you doing, everybody? Today, I'm coming to you from Southern Ontario, as I do most days. And here in Southern Ontario, we are getting the worst snowstorm of the year. 10 to 30 centimeters in the Greater Toronto, Hamilton, KW area. Yikes. They've closed the schools. I got a number of people that texted into my radio show this morning to say, what are they doing closing the schools? I always used to go to school in weather like this. They never used to close the schools. Listen, I think the reason that the schools are closed today is not because it's not safe to walk to school. The reason the schools are closed today is because they want as many people off the roads as possible. And when you take all the education workers off the roads and you take a large portion of the parents off the roads, that opens up a lane, so to speak, for the plows to get through and get this cleaned up as quickly as possible. And this storm is no joke. It is frigid cold outside. The snow is freezing quickly, and there are major routes that are closed in the Greater Toronto, Hamilton, KW area. 401 is closed in spots. The Don Valley Parkway, a major artery in and out of Toronto. The city is just big, and there's a lot of people who don't know how to drive in the snow, and this is what happens, everybody. So it's just one of those days. Regardless of where you're listening, here's hoping you're having a great day. In this episode, I'm going to cover a lot of things, but before I get to that, I just want to do a couple of quick housekeeping type items. Number one, tomorrow is Listener DM Friday. If there's anything you want to talk about, anything you want to weigh in on, comment you want to make, you want to call me out, whatever it is, send me a DM. Get into my Instagram, or you can do it on Facebook, X, whatever it is that works best for you, at Scott Fox on Air. Whatever it is, I will use it tomorrow on Listener DMs. On top of that, I want to say a quick thank you. Yesterday, it was so weird doing this, and I actually was nervous getting ready to do it. I got asked at the last minute to go to the station that I started my radio career at and fill in for a good friend of mine, The Hammer. They asked me to do the afternoon show yesterday on Z1035. So I did mornings on Light 92. Then I did afternoons on Z1035 because they needed somebody and Hammer was off sick. I am absolutely blown away at the amount of people that messaged me. I forgot how much reach that radio station has, but if you find yourself in the Greater Toronto area, Z1035 has gone through some changes recently. There's a brand new morning show with my good friend Melanie, and she is working now with another friend of mine named Ronnie. They call it the Z Morning Zoo. And they're doing great work over there. They're just getting started. If you've heard it and you weren't sure if you like it or not, give it a chance. I think that that's going to be a very popular radio show in Toronto. And I got a chance to fill in yesterday in the afternoon, too. So I heard from some people that I haven't heard from in a while. A number of them did not realize I have a podcast. So, hey, if you're one of the new listeners to the pod, welcome. Great to have you. I hope you like what you're about to hear. And thank you again to everybody who sent nice, positive, encouraging words. I appreciate that so much. On the pod today, we're talking about China. We're going to talk about Greenland. We're going to talk about Iran and a whole bunch more. Oh, also Crown Royal, too. That's back again. All right, let's try and jump through it. There's a lot to get to, and I'm going to start off with something that actually happened almost a year ago when Canada was in the midst of an election campaign. It was the Federal English Leaders Debate. Pierre Poilievre, Jagmeet Singh, Yves-François Blanchet, and Prime Minister Mark Carney. When it got to the part about security, this is an answer that our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, gave. Listen to this.
10 seconds. Mr. Carney?
Well, we're in a security section. I think we didn't have a chance to talk about anything internationally. I think the biggest security threat to Canada is China.
Okay, that's exactly what the Prime Minister said almost a year ago. China is the biggest security threat to Canada. Now, he could have just misspoke, right? Like, maybe he wasn't fully briefed or something like that. Is China really a threat to Canada? Why, yes, they are, because the very next day, the Prime Minister was asked to clarify his comments.
Last night at the debate, you said the single greatest threat facing Canada was China. I'm hoping you can expand on that a little bit and tell me a bit about how our current relationship with the U.S. impacts that threat, and specifically how you would stand up for the sovereignty of Taiwan, given the current chaos and uncertainty.
Well, there's several aspects to China. I'm very clear-eyed about China. It is the second largest economy in the world. It is our second largest trading partner. It is also, and I'll choose my words carefully, given that I'm briefed on these matters and have my security clearance and do that. It is one of the largest threats to, with respect to foreign interference, which we have to counter, and we are countering. It is a partner, more than that, with Russia, and is supporting them in its unjustified invasion, illegal invasion of Ukraine. It is a threat within broader Asia and to Taiwan, and so we both have to engage with China, take steps to protect ourselves here, take steps, for example, which we have done in the last few weeks, steps to protect the Arctic. China is a threat, becoming an emerging threat to the Arctic, which is why we will now have, one of the reasons why we'll now have year-round presence in the Arctic, why we have over the horizon radar struck with Australia, why we have announced that we're going to reinforce our icebreakers and our military capabilities in the Arctic. So, as from a geopolitical sense, the biggest threat, we're taking action to address.
That sounds bad. I mean, holy cow. Carney, you've got me convinced. China is a threat to our sovereignty. They're a threat to our elections. They've definitely interfered. They have held Canadians in custody over there. There's so many different things that the Prime Minister just said to flag what a threat China is to Canada. There's more.
Some of the campaign was pushing positive narratives about you. Why do you think that China, the PRC, seems to like you? Why are they praising you?
I have absolutely no idea, and I have absolutely no idea, and I think I'll leave it at that.
Oh, okay, maybe though, maybe. Is it because Brookfield has some pretty extensive business dealings with China? Is that it? Could it be it? I don't know. What the hell are we doing? What the hell are we doing? We had a chance to do a deal with the Americans and really reset the relationship between us and the Americans. We had a chance to do it twice, in July and in November. Here's what we did. We intentionally sabotaged the deal both times. It was at one point very politically advantageous for Mark Carney and also for Doug Ford in Ontario to make Donald Trump the bad guy and insist we got to go elsewhere. And out of all of the places that we could have gone, we landed on China. Now, they do have the second biggest economy in the world, but everything about our foreign policy over the last number of years has suggested that we should not be dealing with China. They're the biggest threat to Canada. Now we're doing a state visit over there, kissing their ass, trying to get a deal, maybe giving up on some of our tariffs just to try and get in good with the Chinese again. I don't know. What are we doing? I mean, serious question. What are we doing? Are you going to be okay with Mark Carney closer aligning Canada to China when we've got the Americans sitting right down there saying, come talk to us? You guys are going to have to get rid of supply management. We're going to have the free flow of dairy back and forth. You guys are going to have to allow some more American businesses into Canada. We're going to have a much better relationship once we do all these things. But in the meantime, the Americans want to see a few things done that I think by and large most Canadians would appreciate being done as well. Could have made life great for everybody on both sides of the border. But nope, heaven forbid we work out a deal with Donald Trump. We've got to go and deal with the Chinese. You just heard what Mark Carney said about the Chinese less than a year ago. Did you think a year ago we would be there, hat in hand, begging them for a trade deal? It's really, really shocking. Like, I'm just blown away at where Canada finds itself right now at this moment in history. And we are there because we refused to play ball and work out a deal that would have been great for Canada and great for the USA. There's so many things that we said, no, we won't give up on supply management. We want to protect our dairy industry. Well, I mean, it's debatable whether or not supply management protects the dairy industry or it just makes some people very wealthy. And frankly, if that was the irritant, it seems like that was a solvable problem. Now we're about to jump into bed with China. What is that going to mean, by the way? Are we going to allow Huawei into Canada again? Are we going to allow their Chinese EVs? Are we going to allow Chinese military presence in Canada? Like, what are we going to, how closely aligned is the Prime Minister going to make us with China? Are we going to stand up for Taiwan's sovereignty if China goes and invades and tries to take over Taiwan? I have no idea where we are anymore. I honestly don't know. The Canadian government is making up foreign policy on the fly because they will not do a deal with Donald Trump. Craziness. Let's go now to Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, the Member of Parliament for Oakville East, I believe. It's Anita Anand.
With the world's largest economies, including India, where we have agreed to start negotiations on a comprehensive economic partnership agreement. China, another one of the world's largest economies and Canada's second largest trading partner, is certainly high on the list of a country where we need to sit at the table and have a negotiation and ensure while we are doing that, that we are representing Canada's security interests and the interests of Canadians. As I said, that is a complex issue. It is a complex relationship, but Prime Minister Carney is here to recalibrate the Canada-China relationship, and we as a group of ministers are pleased to be joining him.
How much of this is necessitating going on in the United States, the turmoil there?
We have said on numerous occasions that we will double non-U.S. trade over the next 10 years. That means that we are cognizant of the fact that the global economic environment has fundamentally changed and that Canada must diversify its trading partners. We are doing that in the Gulf region with a $71 billion commitment from the UAE. We are doing that in India with the CEPA negotiations, and we are here now in China making sure that we are recalibrating this relationship. In addition, I could point to a host of other trading arrangements that we are focusing on.
We stand for nothing. This is embarrassing. What do our NATO allies and our G7 counterparts think of Canada running right to China? What do they think of that? I know there's security concerns. We banned TikTok because we were so afraid about the Chinese spying on us and figuring out what kids are doing in their bedroom. We banned TikTok. Now we're over there doing this? I honestly don't get it, guys. I really don't. When I heard the Prime Minister was going over there, I rolled my eyes and I thought, well, this is silly. What are we doing here? This is going to be embarrassing. Nothing's announced. Once everything is announced, whatever it is they work out over there, once we have something to talk about, we will, for sure. But at the moment, I just don't get what Canada's doing. I don't understand where we are anymore. I don't know our place in the world anymore. But Canada certainly seems to have lost its way. And that is deeply, deeply concerning. Before and by the way, that China trip wraps up on Saturday. Then the Prime Minister is going to Qatar. Then he is going to the World Economic Forum. He's going with a whole bunch of Liberal cabinet ministers and members of parliament and donors and insiders. And what good is going to come out of that for Canada? What good has ever come for Canada from the World Economic Forum? It's so bad, Pierre Poilievre has banned all of his members from being associated with the World Economic Forum and attending their meetings. How much money are we spending to send everybody over to Davos to party with the global elites at the World Economic Forum? As things get announced, count on me. I will be talking about them here in the podcast. Right now, I'm just embarrassed. I'm shocked. I'm confused. I don't know what we're doing anymore. But once there's actual tangible agreements or whatever there is that comes of this, I will talk about it and its implications. And if I need to bring somebody in to explain, I will. But you can count on me every single day over the next little while. I'm going to be covering whatever it is that we're doing overseas with China. Again, no deal with America. That is 1,000% on Mark Carney. He swore he could do it. He couldn't get it done. And now, and maybe this is what he wanted all along. Well, I tried, but I couldn't get something done with America. But that's okay, because I wanted us closer with China all along. I wanted us closer with Europe all along. That's the globalist mentality. We'll see where it goes. Here in Canada, the drama still unfolding over Canadian whiskey. Crown Royal. The Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, being extremely stubborn, insisting that he is still going to ban Crown Royal, a Canadian-made and Canadian-grown whiskey. He's going to ban it from the LCBO, won't be available in Ontario. Well, the Premier of Manitoba, Wab Kinew, making his third straight appearance on Scott Fox After 9 here today. He has an issue with that. He doesn't want to see Crown Royal banned. Nobody wants to. I still have not heard from a single person that thinks it's a good idea to ban Crown Royal. But I want to play this next one for you. This one is from yesterday on Power Play on CTV with Vashi Kapelos. Vashi was talking to Premier Kinew about this little spat between Manitoba and Ontario, between Kinew and Ford over Crown Royal. I want you to listen very carefully to how Wab Kinew talks about Doug Ford. Listen very carefully. These two swear, oh, we're friends and he's a champion. No, he's a champion. Okay, listen to what Premier Kinew says about Doug Ford right here.
You know, the thing about working with Premier Ford is I recognize that he's going to talk the way that he is. He's talked tough. He's talked himself into a certain position, talked himself up onto a ledge. We can't let him jump. We've got to give him an opportunity to talk his way down from that ledge. And so I don't expect that the situation will get resolved overnight, but I do know that if we give a win, give a path forward, call it what you will, and we keep just making the case that this is not where you want to take your fight. You don't want to take your fight to a place that is going to harm salt of the earth, blue collar Canadians. I'm sure Mr. Ford will come around.
Isn't that something? You've got a premier of one province basically talking about the premier of another province like he's a complete and total idiot. This is exactly how Canadian politicians talk about Donald Trump. How many times have you heard Canadian politicians? Well, there's a different way to deal with Trump, and he doesn't act the same way or talk the same way, and he's got his own style. That's exactly what Premier Kinew is saying about Premier Ford. Listen to that again.
You know, the thing about working with Premier Ford is I recognize that he's going to talk the way that he is. He's talked tough. He's talked himself into a certain position, talked himself up onto a ledge. We can't let him jump. We've got to give him an opportunity to talk his way down from that ledge. And so I don't expect that the situation will get resolved overnight, but I do know that if we give a win, give a path forward, call it what you will, and we keep just making the case that this is not where you want to take your fight. You don't want to take your fight to a place that is going to harm salt of the earth, blue collar Canadians.
No, we don't. We don't want to affect those people in Manitoba in any way. I don't want to see a single other Canadian lose their job. That's happening way too much. Ontario banning Crown Royal would absolutely mean job losses in Manitoba, at least, maybe also in Quebec, and maybe even in Ontario. There could even be more. The way Premier Kinew was talking about Doug Ford is the same way Canadian politicians talk about Donald Trump. Got to give him an off-ramp. He talks tough and he talks himself into a corner. We got to give him an opportunity to talk himself out. We got to give him a win. That's exactly how they talk about Trump. And Ford, I don't think he understands that we're looking at him because he's acting just like Donald Trump is. The irony is just amazing, isn't it? I really hope that they get this resolved. I don't know when Premier Ford is going to come to his senses. I don't know if he's looking for an off-ramp or what the deal is, but I wonder how the members of the Ontario PC caucus feel. They've got to be hearing it. Nobody agrees with banning Crown Royal from the LCBO, but they've all got to stand behind their leader. Like everything he says is great. They got to be rolling their eyes and wondering, when are we going to have a leadership race? When's this guy going to step down? I like Doug Ford a lot. I really, really do. But God, is he ever offside on this issue? It is just embarrassing as well. Look at that. Multiple embarrassing situations unfolding in front of us right now, all put on by people who are making about $250,000 to $350,000 a year and walk around like they're kings, not elected individuals. It's nuts. Let's talk a little bit about the economy. I'm going to do this for a second day in a row, maybe second time in 3 days. I really like Ron Butler, the mortgage guy. And Ron, who is on social at Ron Mortgage Guy, if you want to follow him, he is saying something that I've understood for a very long time. When we get all these great numbers in and the government brags about them, best GDP in the G7 and lowest debt to whatever ratio, that doesn't really mean anything to the average person. The average person's economy is very, very simple. Can I afford to house myself? Can I afford to feed myself and my family? Can I afford the things I want and need? That's how the average person's economy works. It isn't in GDP. It isn't in construction output or home starts or anything like that. The average person's economy is what they can afford versus what they need. The single best measure of how good or bad the economy is doing should have nothing to do with the stock market. It should have nothing to do with GDP. It should have nothing to do with outputs and all these other things. Let's look at what people are buying and what they're not. And one of the things people usually buy a lot of is McDonald's. Well, the economy clearly isn't doing very good because McDonald's just announced they're freezing the prices on their extra value meals, and they've locked in the $1 coffees for the rest of the year because people aren't going there because the prices were too high. You know who gets that? Ron Butler. I'm going to warn you, Ron speaks with very colorful language. And whereas I don't use profanity in the pod, unless I'm talking about that son of a bitch, Tiff Macklem from the Bank of Canada, Ron does use a little bit of profanity. If you've got younger ears around, you might want to turn this down for just a sec. This is a little over a minute.
Hey, you know what the real fucking sign of economic trouble is in a country? McDonald's freezing the price of fucking value meals. Not fucking kidding in the least. No. I am not kidding. Okay, it's not all about what the bank economists think. It's not all about what the university guys are. Oh, let me study this. It's not all about what the government horseshit says. You want to know about the economy? If McDonald's announces they're freezing the fucking value meal price for a year, that tells you the economy is fucked. Yeah. Simple as that. All right? We got to get this through our heads. Every time we see decent economic news, it's really the top 5 or 10% earners in a country are doing okay. The top 5 or 10% in Canada, they're doing just fucking fine. They're making money. Their stock market numbers are up. They're fucking thinking they're smart. The people in fucking States, same thing. Stock market's way up. Everybody's thinking it's good. Gold is up. Silver's up. Everything's up. People think, yeah, economy's going really good. Nobody's fucking eating silver, okay? If you're a family of 4 with very average income jobs, if you want to take your kids out, you go to McDonald's. And if the president of McDonald's Canada thinks it's a good idea to announce a price freeze on value meals, which is pretty shitty, if we're being honest, value meal, then it's meaningful. It speaks to where the economy is going. It knows the economy for the majority of fucking people, okay? That's what it means. It means it ain't fucking good. Seriously, not good. If fucking McDonald's thinks that we got to announce that we're holding the line on the value meal and that's a meaningful thing for a year, they think it's going to be shit for a year. Of course they do, okay? Look. You might laugh at this. You might think it's bullshit. This is no joke. This is the McDonald's knows more about what average people's economy is at, where their standard of living is at. McDonald's knows more than all these fuckers in the universities.
Amen, Ron Butler. Yeah, he's absolutely right. We are completely disconnected in this country from our elected individuals. They just don't get it. Those elites that sit in the House of Commons, in government, have no idea what the average family's going through. And the ones who do kind of get it, the ones who are hearing it from their constituents in their local ridings, they go back to Ottawa, and then someone in the Prime Minister's office or a cabinet minister's senior staffer pulls them aside and says, relax, look at this. Our GDP is great. Stock market's looking good. The economy is fine. Don't be silly. Just toe the line. Keep going with this liberal ideology. It's not fine. McDonald's knows that. That's why they're doing that. The average person's economy is on life support, everybody. This is not good news. Our economy is so bad. I read a stat the other day, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but I'm going to tell you it is something that is deeply concerning. Something like 4 out of 5 Canadians are within $200 a month of being insolvent. In other words, $200 a month max to play with for a large majority of the middle class. We can't go on like this. This is crazy. What the hell is going on? And why is nobody doing anything to offer relief? You get that son of a bitch, Tiff Macklem, at the Bank of Canada. Nope, not going to lower interest rates. Can't let that inflation get out of control again. It got out of control on his watch. Right now, he's trying to fix his own mess. And he's doing it by bankrupting the middle class. And it hasn't occurred to anybody. The whole thing is going to go completely belly up unless they quickly put money back in the pockets of average Canadians. People need more money in their pocket. And until that happens, nothing good is going to happen in the economy. Right now, I want to take you to something that happened yesterday in America. There were Senate hearings going on, and Senator Josh Hawley, who's very good, was questioning a doctor. And this is going to kind of speak for itself. This, again, goes back to liberal ideology. Gender issues. I don't like to touch these too much because you know what? At the end of the day, I don't care. If someone is gay, they're gay. If someone is bi, they're bi. If they're trans, they're trans. It really doesn't matter to me. I am happy that people are happy in whatever it is they're doing. The problem is there's been a massive push to try and bestow all kinds of rights, quote unquote, on members of the trans community. People trying to force them into sports. For example, you've got trans women who would be biological men looking for the ability to compete against biological women. And I'm firmly opposed to that for a lot of reasons that I've talked about here on this pod. I think we need to protect women. And no, I don't think biological men should be in the same change room with women and girls. I don't think that's appropriate either. But it's an ideology that tries to push this sort of thing. And some people try to push it a lot harder than others. So yesterday, Washington, D.C., Senate hearings going on, and a doctor was being questioned by Senator Hawley. This is a bit of a long exchange. Take this in. I really, really think that this is important because when it is a Senate hearing or a congressional hearing, they only bring in experts. So this is someone that somebody deemed an expert when it comes to gender issues. This is shocking, but listen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since you bring it up, why don't we just start there? Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question.
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities, but
can men get pregnant?
There are many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women. That
can men get pregnant?
Again, as I'm saying,
let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So, can men get pregnant? You're a doctor, I think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool. And
no, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding. This is about science and evidence, and I'm asking you. You know, the United States Supreme Court just heard arguments yesterday at great length on this question. This is not a hypothetical question. This is not theoretical. It affects real people in their real lives. And you're here as an expert, called by the other side as an expert, and you've been telling us that you follow, right, you're a doctor, and you follow the science and the evidence. So I just want to know, based on the science, can men get pregnant? That's a yes or no question. It really is, I think.
I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of a lot.
I'm not. I'm trying to get, it's not complex. I'm trying to get to an answer, and I'm trying to test, frankly, your veracity as a medical professional and as a scientist. Can men get pregnant?
I think you're also conflating
this is extraordinary.
Male with...
No, I'm not conflating male and female. They're two different things. There's biological men and there's biological women. And I want to know, can men get pregnant?
What you were talking about is biological.
You're not going to answer my question. it sounds like to me.
Biological males.
This isn't hard, doctor. Can men get pregnant? Yes or no?
Again, I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you that is not coming from a place of trying to be.
That's Canada in 2026. I mean, that was America. But there's a lot of people in Canada that subscribe to the same ideology as that doctor. That's a doctor that cannot answer the question, can men get pregnant? Couldn't answer it, wouldn't answer it. Why is that? Why do you think that doctor wouldn't answer the question, and a very simple one at that? Can men get pregnant? Let me ask you, you're listening to the pod right now. I don't know, maybe you're in the car, maybe you're at home, walking your dog, whatever it is you're doing. Let me ask you a question. Answer it out loud. Can men get pregnant? I think just about everybody listening said no, right there. That was a doctor that refused to say no. But these are the same doctors that tell us things like, follow the science, trust the science. A part of the reason I'm doing that is because I want to show you that even when you have people that stand up and say they hide behind their initials, right? I'm an MD, I'm a doctor. You need to listen to me. You need to trust me. And then they come out with stuff like that. And I think it just ruins all the trust. I want scientists to follow the science. I'm willing to follow the science wherever the science takes us. The science tells us men cannot get pregnant. That's all there is to it. And it's disrespectful to women who can get pregnant, who we count on to get pregnant and give us the children that are the future of the world. That is something sacred that we should all hold special. Trivializing it by even entertaining the notion that men can get pregnant is insulting to women. And frankly, it's got to stop. This gender ideology nonsense is dividing us, and it's not necessary. We can agree on some basic things. And I think one of the basic things we should be able to agree on here is that no, men can't get pregnant. I'm going to move on. Yesterday, before I get to some Trump stuff, and I'll warn you, yeah, I am going to play some Trump stuff. Again, I acknowledged this yesterday. I know there's a lot of people who do not like Donald Trump. They don't like too much of him in this pod, and that's okay. I understand why. However, I do have to do some because there's some major issues cooking from Venezuela to Greenland to Iran and more. There's stuff on the go here. So I'm going to play you some Donald Trump in a minute. But before I do, I have a lot of respect for politicians that put their constituents before their party affiliation, before their personal ideology. The people that got elected by the individuals in their area to represent them in the governing body. And they represent their constituents. They don't just toe the party line and line up to kiss the leader's ass at every moment. I've got a ton of respect for them. But as you know, we're also very, very divided. I have no doubt in my mind, none, that there are good, decent members of parliament that sit on the liberal side of the House of Commons. No doubt some of them are good, honest people. But they want to keep their job. They want to keep their perks. They want to keep their paycheck rolling in. Understood. So even though they can look around and see this is not good, we got more people than ever going to food banks, massive immigration problem, massive housing problem. They worked for a government that swore they were going to build houses and the houses aren't being built. We've got a huge problem with crime. They know that, and they're not standing up and trying to pressure their leader, the person who can change it. They're not standing up and pressuring their leader to do the right thing and change the bail reform laws. They're not standing up and trying to get their leader to do something to put more money in people's pockets. They're just going to shut their mouth and do whatever the leader's office tells them to do. I have no time for that kind of politics. When I meet somebody who does stand up specifically for their constituents, I want to acknowledge it. So we're going to go down to the states. There's one senator in particular that has some of the Democrats, those are the liberals, very, very concerned. He is Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. Yesterday, he was on Fox News, and he got asked a really interesting question about why sometimes he sides with Trump. Not supposed to side with Trump. I mean, what the hell? We're Democrats. We don't agree with anything the Republicans do. If they say the sky is blue, we're going to say it's green. If they say men can't get pregnant, we're going to say men can get pregnant. It's crazy. They're divided just because they do not want to let the other side have a win. Well, John Fetterman is going issue by issue. And sometimes he disagrees with the president. Sometimes he agrees with the president. He got asked about that, and he explained why. Sometimes, even though he's a Democrat, he does agree with the president and with the administration.
With the president or with the other side in this, very, very polarized kind of time. But, I would rather just be very honest and just kind of play it straight. I would rather be a great, honest senator than one that's just only going to play to just one side. I represent Pennsylvania, the most purple state in the country. I don't just represent Democrats. I represent 13 million Pennsylvanians, and I try to just play it straight. And I have to think that's my responsibility.
Clip's a little choppy. I understand that, but you get the idea of what he was saying. Great. That's what we want. That's what we need more of. Politicians who are going to listen to the people in their community, and whatever votes they cast are going to be cast with their constituents in mind. That's essential, but we don't see that very often in politics anymore, and I think that's deeply concerning. Disagreeing just because you don't want to let the other side have a win is wrong. There's no monopoly on good ideas. And I think if a good idea comes from the other side, not only should we acknowledge it, we should work with them to implement it. They're supposed to be working for Canadians, not working for themselves and to keep their perks. Now let's get to a little bit of U.S. President Donald Trump. Yesterday, he had the media in the Oval Office. He invited them in again. He does more media availability and answers more questions, I think, than any president in history. And it's not even close. Yesterday, again, talking to reporters, the topic of Greenland came up.
Mr. President, on NATO, right now it sounds like you are saying that you would potentially acquire Greenland by force. That would be a NATO country. Are you saying that? Would you do that?
No, you're saying that.
Would you acquire that by force?
No, you're telling me that that's what I'm going to do. You don't know what I'm going to do.
So what are the options?
Your network doesn't know either.
The Danish foreign minister said that there's still fundamental differences after the meeting with Rubio and with the vice president. Are you willing to leave the NATO alliance in order to get what you want with Greenland? What are the options right now?
I wouldn't be telling you what I'm willing to do, certainly. I'm not going to give up options, but it's very important. Greenland's very important for the national security, including of Denmark. And the problem is there's not a thing that Denmark can do about it if Russia or China wants to occupy Greenland. But there's everything we can do. You found that out last week with Venezuela. There's everything we can do about things such as that. Not going to happen.
And you know what? I have every reason to believe that the president is telling the truth, that China has a good interest. I don't know about Russia, but I have reason to believe that, China is also very interested in Greenland. And part of the reason they're very interested in Greenland, and we know that, is because they want control of the Arctic. And if you're not sure, you want some verification, go back about 15, 20 minutes in this pod and listen to Prime Minister Mark Carney himself say they're becoming an adversary in the Arctic. It's true. It's legit. We don't need to debate this. China is a threat. And if it comes down to it, one of three countries is going to end up with Greenland because it's not going to be with Denmark for very long. No matter what, it's not going to be with Denmark for long. Either China's going to get it, Russia's going to get it, or America's going to get it. We're in Canada. Greenland is our neighbor. Now, we're separated by ocean, of course, but they're our neighbor. We share the Arctic presence with Greenland. Do we want China there with a military base? Do we want Russia there with a military base? I mean, Russia's already part of the Arctic. They're also our neighbor, technically. I think Trump has made up his mind, and really this is just a cat and mouse game. He's going to end up with Greenland. The Americans are going to have Greenland, and that's probably for the greater good, if I'm being honest. Trump says we need Greenland. That's part of what the Iron or Golden Dome is going to be. Our missile defense system for North America. That's also going to protect Canada. Canada has already said we're going to invest in that. Well, then doesn't it make sense that the Americans who are putting on the Golden Dome be in Greenland if strategically we need that to help protect ourselves? Or are we going to get in bed with the Russians or with the Chinese? Could they be there as a threat to us? I don't know. I'm really not sure. But Trump seems like he's going to get it. If you're in Greenland, and I haven't looked to see if I have any listeners in Greenland. I can tell the number of people in each country that listen to the pod every day. I don't know if there's any listeners in Greenland, but if there are, let me tell you a few things. When the Americans make you guys American, I'm led to believe there's going to be a cash payout to all of the residents of Greenland. I don't know how much that's going to be. I've heard conflicting numbers, and there's a lot of daylight between the low number and the high number. So I'm not even going to speculate. you're also going to start to get stuff. You're going to start to get things like a McDonald's. Do you know in all of Greenland, there's not a McDonald's? In all of Greenland, there's not a Starbucks. In all of Greenland, there's not a Walmart. They're almost completely reliant on cargo and ships that come in. If that's in American territory, a lot of that's going to change. Greenland's going to get some infrastructure, and they're going to get a lot of investment because the U.S. is going to set up some pretty strategic military bases that are going to be well staffed and have a lot of people living there full time. People that will, when they're not working, be out in the community, spending money, going to restaurants and buying things. Greenland's going to get some infrastructure. And Greenland, I hope you're okay with that. You haven't had that stuff, though, under Denmark. Once you get a major power like America taking over, you're going to start to feel more American and you're going to get some American stuff. For better or worse, that sort of thing is going to happen. Let's listen to a little bit more of President Trump talking about Greenland before I play the Danish foreign minister.
We're not, I can't rely on Denmark being able to fend themselves off. They were talking about they put an extra dog, and they were serious about this. They put an extra dog sled there last month. They added a second dog sled. That's not going to do the trick.
Denmark fought alongside the United States in both Afghanistan.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it. But I have a very good relationship with Denmark, and we'll see how it all works out. I think something will work out.
Yeah, I have every reason to believe that they're probably going to work something out. Yesterday, J.D. Vance, the vice president, and Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State for America, they met with Denmark's foreign minister. After that, Denmark's foreign minister came out and spoke to the media.
And we therefore still have a fundamental disagreement, but we also agree to disagree. And therefore we will, however, continue to talk. We have decided to form a high-level working group to explore if we can find a common way forward. The group, in our view, should focus on how to address the American security concerns, while at the same time respecting the red lines of the Kingdom of Denmark. We expect that such a group will meet for a first time within a matter of weeks. And then I will pass the floor to my colleague from Greenland, Vivian Mosfeld.
Okay, I mean, the foreign minister doesn't seem like he loves this idea, but I think even he can read the writing on the wall. Even he knows where this is going, and he said they remain open to talking. He also did an interview on Fox News. Listen to some of this.
But you also don't believe the U.S. is going to invade Greenland, do you?
No, at least I do not hope so, because, that will be the end of NATO. But I want to have a more positive approach to all this. And I think it's important for me to say that we share the concerns. That's why we are investing heavily. We haven't received any military request from U.S. About stepping up in Greenland for the last 20 years. And we have this framework from 1951. We have a defense agreement. We all belong to NATO. And we think that our way forward should be that we, combine forces. So we share the concerns to some extent, but not the methods, if I could put it that way.
So on the military side, on the critical raw materials side, you're willing to open to U.S. companies. I understand. So you're saying you're starting this formal conversation, and you hope it lands in something that you can negotiate.
Yeah, that's the outcome of today's meeting. It's not that I have a position that now the problem is solved. It stands crystal clear for me that the ambition, the president's ambition is on the table. Of course, we have our red lights. This is 2026. You trade with people, but you don't trade people. And there's a third way forward. And that's what we agreed today, that we will now set up this high-level working group to explore whether there's a way forward where we can accommodate, which I totally agree, the president's concern, and still respect, of course, the territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark and the Greenlandic people's right to self-determination.
Doesn't sound like Denmark is really all that concerned about the people of Greenland deciding their own destiny. It sounds like he doesn't want to lose Greenland, but it also sounds like, again, he can read the writing on the wall. He knows where this is going, and it's going to America. I think really at this point, this is just a negotiation. They're just trying to figure out what they're going to get for it. But as far as Greenland being a territory of Denmark, it's not going to be that way for very long. And, he agreed with President Trump. He acknowledged President Trump has valid concerns about security and threats from Russia and China. Now, he wants to work with the Americans, have the Americans come into Greenland and they defend it, but it wouldn't actually be theirs. That seems to be the sticking point here. I think by the time this is all said and done, Greenland is going to be American and Canada is going to be surrounded. We'll have Alaska to the left, Greenland to the right, and continental America to the south. Friends, that's going to do it for me. Get those listener DMs in if there's something you want to talk about or want me to talk about tomorrow. I'd love to hear from you at Scott Fox on air, Instagram, X, Facebook, whatever's easiest for you. Slide into my DMs and I will have that episode for you tomorrow. Enjoy your Thursday, and I will leave you with the sounds of Pat James and the Whole Truth. Hey now, see you tomorrow. Oh, yeah.